An historic moment for the city of Boston.
The Embrace has every potential to be Boston's Statue of Liberty.
The oldest public park in the country gets a brand new feature, The Embrace.
If love looked like something, here it is, because everybody can relate to it.
It spotlights the personal side of a very public figure, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and the love he had for his wife, Coretta Scott King.
She was not someone's little wife. She was very feminist. She was very educated. She had many of her own ideas.
Today, just days before Dr. King's birthday, we dedicate this powerful monument that honors his everlasting legacy.
What this embrace, I think, can do is help pull people out of what divides us and pull people towards what can unite us.
This is The Embrace, Unveiling, only here on NBC 10 Boston.
We welcome you live to the Boston Common. You are in for a treat this afternoon. This is a live look from overhead at the Embrace from Tremont on the Common condominiums. The bronze monument is set to be unveiled in the next few hours. This is a memorial that proudly stands 20 feet high and 25 feet wide. It is set within the 1965 Freedom Plaza, which commemorates the legacy of local leaders dedicated to working for civil rights and social justice. And we are so very excited to show it to you this afternoon, live right here on NBC 10 Boston. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for this special coverage of the Embrace Unveiling. I'm Glenn Jones.
And I'm Priscilla Casper. This is a significant day, not only for the city of Boston, but really for the country. I mean, it has been decades since a new memorial has been dedicated on the Boston Common. It took several years to build to this very moment. NBC 10 Boston is a proud partner of Embrace Boston and has been there every step of the way. Now, conversations about a memorial to honor the King started back in 2017. In 2018, 5 finalists were selected from 126 different teams all across the world. Now, after the city of Boston, Embrace Boston, and the public weighed in, and the winning design was selected in 2019. It is based off this photo of the Kings seen sharing a hug after Dr. King won the Nobel Peace Prize in 1964. Artist Willis Thomas and the Mask Design Group had the idea to bring this photo to life, and boy, did they.
That is absolutely true. Construction began all the way across the country in Walla Walla, Washington. 609 different pieces were assembled together to create a sculpture that weighs nearly 40,000 pounds. So you can just imagine what it's like trying to transport something that massive and important all the way across the country. The monument was deconstructed into 7 large pieces and traveled nearly 3,000 miles on trucks to be here in Boston. Then once all of it was here, the monument was reassembled on the Boston Common, and you can see the work happening in that video. It stands at the center of a granite plaza, which required 1,300 granite stone pieces to construct.
Okay, so we're just giving you a little taste here of what we are going to bring you this next hour. We're going to get into far more detail on the entire process, including hearing directly from the people who helped bring this monument into existence. They have so many wonderful stories to share.
Some of those people are joining us right now. We're absolutely honored to have part of the King family with us. Martin Luther King III, the eldest son of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Coretta Scott King is with us. Their daughter, Yolanda King, is with us as well. And Andrea Waters King is with us as well. So we're so happy to have part of the King family here with us on this very, very important day.
Yeah, thank you for taking time to speak with us. Now, your family is devoted to carrying out Martin Luther King Jr.'s legacy, mission, and work. How does this monument live up to the ideals?
Well, first of all, just the concept of embrace. And particularly at this particular time when our nation is struggling with a lot of issues. The fact, for me personally, I must say that thank God for this love story, because obviously and directly it was a result of myself and my siblings. I wouldn't be here. But this monument about bringing people together for social justice, it's just amazing. I am so honored just to be a part of this unveiling today.
So, Mrs. King, I wanted to ask you about this love story starting in Boston, because we've learned so much about that over the last couple of years working to prepare for this monument unveiling. But I wonder if the rest of the country knows the role Boston played in the lives of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Coretta Scott King.
I think not. So that's why it's so important that this monument is here, and hopefully will inspire a continuation of looking into their love story and people really finding themselves within that embrace, and hopefully taking that love back into their lives and to their worlds. In a very real sense, their time in Boston was the only time that Martin Luther King Jr. and Coretta Scott King were not in the public arena. So I think within the confines of our family and their love story, it was an extraordinarily important time, because as soon as they left Boston, they were only in Montgomery a few short months when the Montgomery bus boycott started, and then hence history from that moment until Dr. King was assassinated was lived very publicly. So their time in Boston, not only at courting, falling in love, but also being newlyweds, was an extraordinarily special time for them.
And of course, they met while Dr. King was at Boston University and Coretta Scott King was at the New England Conservatory of Music. And I think there are so many Americans who can relate to getting to know each other while in college in Boston, where so many people went to school.
Yeah. And when you see this monument, you really feel the love. So I'm excited for a lot of people to come here and actually feel it. But Yolanda, I want to ask you, you're 14 years old.
Yes.
I was telling Glenn, I've listened to several of your speeches. You are incredible. How do you get this younger generation to be part of this movement?
Well, activism is all about using your platform for good. I think a big misconception that people have is that you have to be a public speaker to be considered an activist, and you have to be able to give speeches. And while that is a factor, there are so many ways that you can contribute and that you can be an activist. And so I think that I believe everyone has a strength, I believe everyone has a talent, and we all have hobbies and things that make us happy. So what we must do is find those things, whether that be art, music, or writing, or starting a club, or reading, and using that for good. So you could start clubs at school. You could paint certain pictures that depict what's going on. There was a big art component to the civil rights movement, and I think a lot of people forget about that. And then you can start a group of people and you all can go to rallies in your town. And so there are just so many things that you can do, and you have to use your platform for good. So find something that you enjoy, that you love, and use that for good. Use that to make a powerful difference. Use that to create a message.
Mr. King, listening to your daughter speak, it's sort of making me think about what comes next. And I know the energy behind this monument is making sure it's a call to action. So if people in the next few months are inspired by this monument, what should they be inspired to do to continue the King legacy?
Well, I think first of all, we've got to figure out how we bring our nation together. Unfortunately, we are more divided right now than we've ever been, and we're certainly in my lifetime. And I think that what that means is we have to stay engaged in our electoral process. We have to come together as a unified effort. I mean, we see a Congress that potentially is divided right now, and we got to encourage them to work together for the better of our nation and for our world, and for children yet unborn, most important.
Yeah, I know Dr. King reminded us often that you should love your enemy, and I imagine that's true for political enemies as well.
It's interesting. We were listening to that at the beginning of that sermon at the beginning of the new year. We try in our home to immerse ourselves continually in the words and speeches of Martin Luther King Jr. and Coretta Scott King, because you have to really gird yourself with it every day. And so one of the ways in which we started our New Year's by listening to that particular sermon, and he goes on to talk about that to clarify that he didn't say like your enemies, and he said there's some people that you just won't like. But the love is a love that's not sentimental. It's a love that just recognizes the interconnectedness of all of us and all of life.
So if you each can have, there's so many words that come to mind when you see this monument. Go down the line. What's one word that really sums it all up for each of you?
Strength.
Perseverance and the power of love.
I was going to say love.
We can tell you're all part of the
so glad that
family.
you took perseverance, so yeah, and love. And I love that people can literally stand under the place where their hearts connected,
yep,
and maybe be infused with that love and carry that out into their daily lives.
Mr. and Mrs. King, Yolanda, it is a pleasure to have you with us to kick off our special coverage of this special day for the city of Boston. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you all.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
All right, we do want to switch gears now and go to our Eli Rosenberg, who actually got to get a first-hand look at the construction of the Embrace in Walla Walla, Washington.
You know, we as a station literally have been there almost every step of the way when we talk about the Embrace. This is history. You can't argue about that. So right now, out here, there is an excitement, there's an anticipation, and here it is, the Embrace. It is wrapped up right now, but we are moments away from the big unveiling. To get here, to this, a memorial the world is about to see, wasn't easy. Then again, the story, the inspiration, the courage behind all of this was far from easy as well.
I feel like there's almost a holy experience.
Boston, meet the Embrace. The first new monument to call the Boston Common home in decades. It all started as an idea, inspired by this picture of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and his wife Coretta Scott King, right after King was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in October 1964. But a memorial of this scale couldn't be built just anywhere. This past June, NBC 10 Boston getting an exclusive look at the Embrace being built. We traveled some 3,000 miles to the foundry in Walla Walla, Washington, one of the few places able to take on a task this large. The Embrace, measuring some 20 by 25 feet, is actually 609 individual pieces of bronze that were stamped and put together first in Walla Walla.
So I think we're trying and we attempted to build a memorial that's built to last, that's representative of future generations. And so I think we found one and hit the mark on this.
The entire thing weighing more than 40,000 pounds. The size of it hits you immediately. For those who spent years planning, dreaming, working to make this happen, the reaction to it being built was immediate and profound.
If you don't start a conversation when you see this thing, I don't know what can help you.
The Embrace now set for its Boston debut. The work, though, nowhere near done.
I think you can't put a memorial in Boston Common that represents Dr. and Mrs. King and not back that up with values, not back that up with work, not back that up with action.
And out here live, it's not even unwrapped yet, and you can see it's already drawing such a crowd. It really was something to see it being built, and how they actually had to have these 609 different pieces of bronze, and they had to find a place somewhere where this could be built, and that took them all the way to Walla Walla, Washington, some 4.5 hours outside of Seattle. It was one of the few places where they could actually build this. And over the past couple of days, as we got closer and closer to this unveiling, just talking with the artist, and they said they hope for a couple of things. First of all, they hope that this is actually the start line, not the finish line. And they're really excited to see the reaction of people when they see this for the first time in just a couple of hours. They also hope, talking with them, that all of this sparks a conversation not about what is possible, but also about what love can achieve. It's going to be very exciting to see all of this in just a couple of minutes.
Okay, Eli, thank you. We can see all the people filling in now here on the Boston Common. It is very, very exciting. We're having a good time with an old friend here on this set. We're joined by someone from Roxbury's 12th Baptist Church, where Dr. King was part of the ministerial team during his time in Boston back in the 50s. Reverend Jeffrey Brown, he is the co-founder of Embrace Boston, and he's here with us now. It's so good to have you.
Nice to see you. So wonderful to be here.
We were just kidding a moment ago that only prayer could bring weather like this in January.
That is so true. Yesterday was cold and rainy, and Reverend Liz Walker turned to me and said, "You need to start praying." So
well, thank you for doing so.
Thank you. It's paying off. Yeah, beautiful day. Take us to the beginning of this.
Sure.
So it's you, it's Reverend Liz Walker, and it's Paul English.
Yeah.
You begin this incredible journey.
Yeah.
How does it start?
Well, Paul was the true inspiration for this. You know, if you ask him, he'll tell you that he's been thinking about this for a long time. And to have something inspirational within Boston that folks can go to and to remember, you know, that great legacy of the Kings. And so somewhere around 2017, I remember being out in Oakland and getting a call from him, and he's like, you know, I need you to go to San Francisco to look at the King Memorial there. So I did, and he said, what do you think? I said, oh, it's inspiring. He said, well, we need to do this in Boston. I was like, oh, okay, just like that. And so the next thing I know, he grabbed Reverend Liz Walker, and then they did a listening tour all through Roxbury and other parts of Boston, and the community really swelled with support, you know, for that and whatnot. And then came the process, which was, shall we say, not the easiest of processes. There were some folks who really didn't want to see this happen. They certainly didn't want to see it in Boston Common, but you know, cooler heads prevailed, and folks started to see the vision that Paul had, and here we are today.
For someone like you, Reverend Brown, who has Boston in his blood, has the 12th Baptist Church history in his resume, to have this monument be in a place where 6 million people come on the Boston Common, what does that mean?
Oh my God. I mean, you know, 12th Baptist Church in Roxbury is a historic church because it was really the center in many ways of black life in Boston. It was known as the Underground Railroad Church. So we had pastors and other community leaders as members, and they really helped not just move the black community along, but actually move the nation along. You know, when we talk about slavery and Civil War and even the issues around segregation. So it's a really, you know, deeply steeped in history church. And to have Dr. King come in 1951 and Coretta Scott, who met him there, to have lunch afterwards, and to know that, you know, the two of them fell in love, and in 1954 they left here and went to history. You know, it's just an amazing thing. You know, I mean, I'm blessed because I get to be in that church every Sunday, and to be a part of that history and tradition. But now we have something for the world to share. So I'm really excited about it.
And, you know, Boston Common, you know, visitors come from really all over the world.
All over the world.
It's such an iconic spot. And this monument is really going to be sparking so many conversations.
Oh, yeah.
Talk about that and that legacy that it's going to continue.
Yeah, I think, you know, what is really amazing about this is that it's the beginning of something. It's not, you know, just a staid thing that's just going to happen and then everybody's going to forget about it. I mean, the community, when we talked to them, really wanted to see action behind this symbol. This can be inspiring, but if you don't have action behind that inspiration, then what is it? And so we have folks who are committed to building a center in Boston so that we could deal with issues around equity and inclusion and all of that. You know, Boston has not had the greatest of reputation when we talk about race relations, and we're hoping that this can be the beginning of something very different, that we can actually see a corner turn in this city.
So when you started speaking, you were taking us back 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
If you think about what your vision was for this idea back then.
Yeah.
Did it live up to that vision? Did it exceed it?
It exceeded it. I mean, when it first happened, several years ago, had no idea what a memorial would look like. Right. We had no idea
where it would be.
But Paul was a tech giant, and he put his money where his mouth is, and he put the first $1 million down, and then the more he talked about his vision, the more people, signed on to it. And so when they had the international competition, for the monument, and when we saw Hank's piece, I think, at least for me, my heart leapt. I was like, this is the moment, when he receives the Peace Prize and the embrace that they had. If you ever see the photograph, I mean, it really sort of channels, inspiration for anybody who sees it. So from the very beginning to now, it's just been an astounding journey. So I'm just so happy.
Exceeded expectations.
Absolutely. Oh, listen, we're so happy to have you here.
We're so happy
and to share part of this day with you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So great to meet you.
Good to meet you too.
We'll talk to you later on.
Yep, you got it.
All right, we want to head out to our Malcolm Johnson, where dignitaries and speakers, they are arriving, and talk about, it's going to be a packed house, huh?
Bye-bye. Yeah, it will be a packed house. It's packed right now. I mean, we've been talking amongst folks. It kind of feels like a cookout or a barbecue here because just about everybody knows one another. Right now, I'm joining you with Mo Cowan. Mo, thank you for taking the time.
Happy to be here, Malcolm.
To speak with us. I'm telling you. So you went to law school here, went to Northeastern. MLK met his wife here. You've been here now for 30 years. Just what does this feel like for you?
This feels like a magnificent day for the city, for the region. It's wonderful that we're celebrating the great history of Dr. and Mrs. King. They met here, began their life together. I met my wife here. It's a city that brings people together. What's great about today is we're certainly recognizing the history and what got us this far, but as Dr. King would want us to remember, we have still a ways to go. And this memorial will symbolize not just the journey we've been on, but the work yet to do. And what a great day to bring all of Boston together in honor and in celebration.
Yeah. Mo, former senator here in Massachusetts, talk to me about the politics of it all when it comes to moving forward in the fight for civil rights here in the city.
Well, that work is never done. That work is never done. We all should be happy about the progress we have made, but we all should be committed that the work is not done until there is true equality and justice. We still have so many socioeconomic inequality issues to deal with, Malcolm, whether it's healthcare, whether it's economic opportunity and prosperity. If Dr. King were with us today, and we're going to honor him today, and Mrs. King, he would say, let's celebrate where we are, but let's not rest on our laurels. Let's keep fighting for those who can't fight for themselves, because until we do that work, we can't say that we should be satisfied and that the work itself is done. And we all should be leaning in to contribute in every way that we can.
Mo, thank you. A celebration of all that's been done and what continues to be done.
Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you. And apologies, guys, as you all sent it out to us. I couldn't hear you in the beginning. It's pretty busy here, as you can tell. For now, we'll send it back to you.
All right, thank you, Malcolm. Well, when Dr. King marched from Roxbury to the Boston Common, the fight for racial equality in Boston was at the forefront of his mission.
While there's been much progress in the past 60 years, some racial disparities are as bad as they've ever been. Take life expectancy, for example. In the Back Bay, it's about 90 years. In Roxbury, you're only expected to live to about age 60. That's a stunning 30-year gap. Black Men Run tries to close that gap, focusing on healthy choices like road running. They run every Saturday, year-round. They'll be running tomorrow. I've tagged along with them a few times in the past. But you'd have to run a very long way to escape generations of inequality.
3 miles separate Roxbury and Back Bay, right? Back Bay is majority affluent, white-owned, right? If you live in Back Bay today, your life expectancy is 91 years. If you live in Roxbury today, you're majority black, lower income community, right? Your life expectancy is 58 years. So tell me how you lose 38 years on your life expectancy by walking 3 miles.
I've heard that stat many times. It just strikes me right in the face every time I hear it. This is what Dr. King said in his 1965 speech after walking those 3 miles from Roxbury to here at the Boston Common. the vision of the new Boston must extend into the heart of Roxbury. That quote is almost 60 years old, but it's so relevant. On the issue of life expectancy, the same words could be uttered today. All right, we're going to go back now to NBC 10's Malcolm Johnson, who has a special guest.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do, Glenn. Right now I am joined by former Governor Deval Patrick. Thank you so much, Governor,
Honored to be here.
for being here. You know, Governor, you were a former civil rights attorney yourself. You fought for civil rights for years. It's what consumed Martin's life. I just wonder, how much further does the city have to go when it comes to civil rights, and where do we stand as you assess it?
You know, I had a wonderful colleague when I worked at the Legal Defense Fund who used to talk about how civil rights is a relay race for justice, that every generation has to do its part and run as hard and as fast and as far as possible and then hand it on. And I think you're seeing that there is a generation stepping up of all sorts of advocates at the neighborhood level, in the courts, in the legislatures, who sort of put their collective foot down and said, you know what, we don't have to keep doing stuff the way we always have. I think one big mistake we make, or one big challenge we have in this country when we talk about race, is at the same time to acknowledge how much progress we have made, much of it in my lifetime, while also acknowledging how much work remains to be done. And there is work to be done.
Former U.S. Senator Mo Cowan was just speaking about that same point, that a lot of work has been done, but there's very much more that needs to continue being done. As you reflect on this Embrace Memorial, how does that make you feel?
Well, first of all, I want to say how lovely it is that a public sculpture of this scale and beauty, called the Embrace, is put in a place that doesn't always warmly embrace newcomers. And it's a wonderful reminder of the power of building community, of welcoming in new people, and frankly embracing each other. And I've seen in my own experience here as a newcomer 40 years ago, in the way that we, for example, recovered from the marathon bombing, that when we turn to each other instead of on each other, we are stronger. So I love the idea of having a monument that reminds us of the importance of just that, of being in community and part of what Dr. King called the beloved community. Thank you.
Governor, we appreciate your time.
Good to be with you.
Be well.
Take care.
God bless. All right. Guys, we'll send it back to you all.
All right, as he said, a lot of progress has been made, but still a lot of work needs to be done. Thank you so much, Malcolm. Well, we want to take a very cool look high above the Embrace Monument from our camera at the Tremont on the Common condominiums. Incredible shot. Okay, well, here's the thing, though. You're getting the back half of it that's not covered, but right. The front half is covered for the big unveiling, set to happen just really in a short time from now.
And as I look at this picture, I'm thinking about what former Governor Deval Patrick just said, because this really is a monument dedicated and memorializing love. Yes. And oftentimes our monuments are about war. Mm-hmm. And it's so exciting to see a monument dedicated to this, literally a warm embrace right on the Boston Common. It really is spectacular. 20 foot high and 25 feet wide. It is a massive tribute to love.
And I want to actually read something. We got a little chance to go inside this monument, and this is what it says when you talk about love, Glenn. It says, love is such a powerful force. It's there for everyone to embrace. That kind of unconditional love for all of humankind. That is the kind of love that impels people to go into the community and try to change conditions for others, to take risks for what they believe in. So powerful.
Absolutely. And I think people are going to be drawn to that. Some of those people are with NBC 10's Bianca Beltran. She's out here on the Common talking to spectators. Let's see who she has met as we get close to the program beginning here on the Boston Common.
Well, first I want to give you a look at the viewing area, because it's really coming alive now as people are gathering and watching our coverage out here. And I do have Ariel here from Brighton, who was one of the first people we spotted finding a spot at the bandstand for the viewing. And tell me, Ariel, why was it so important for you to be here today?
Yeah, I think this is a really big moment in Boston's history, and I think that this is kind of like an homage to the really big community that Boston holds and like the rich history of making sure that the people of this community are represented, especially in such a big space.
And as we've been here, we've seen more and more people gathering, families, students, people from all over. And as you think about this statue, what it represents, the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Coretta Scott King, and you look around here and you see the people that are gathered, how does it feel to be in community here for this day?
Yeah, I think that it's a way to represent the community and build community. I think that it's going to be a really great space for people to come and contemplate the different ways that Boston has engaged in in civil rights, as well as a way to kind of showcase the work of the community and making sure that this was possible.
Thank you so much for talking to us, and enjoy the day. So there you hear some of what brings people out here today, and we'll be continuing to talk to folks in the community and get their reactions when they see that unveiling happening. Back to you.
Bianca, thanks very much. We're joined by another guest here on the set, and we're so pleased to have him here with us on what is an incredibly busy day for him and his team. Amari Paris Jeffries is with us from Embrace Boston. This is the big day, Amari.
This is the moment.
Congratulations.
Feels like a wedding and an anniversary and the Boston Marathon all in same day to celebrate the King's legacy. So I'm so excited. I got to meet MLK III. Yolanda is Dr. King and Mrs. King's only granddaughter. So it's just wonderful to be able to share and unveil this to them and their family.
Yeah, we were talking to them, and it was so interesting to listen to Yolanda speak, because in many ways, this monument is about the future. And oftentimes, monuments are about one snapshot in our history. Can you explain why that was intentional?
I ran into so many people today, and they said, it's as if this monument had been here all the time. I can't even remember what was here, like it was just a piece of grass. And I think when I was like, was there anything else besides this memorial here? And I think that's one of the special things about this memorial. It's in the shape of a heart. It is about the aspiration of Boston's future, which is about love, welcome, and belonging.
And usually, right, stepping off that, usually you see monuments of people, right? These are of arms coming together. I mean, that famous photo, and Coretta, almost holding up her husband. Talk about that of coming together with this type of photo and this monument.
I think one of the things that many of us wanted to do in the very, very dark days of the pandemic is to embrace our loved ones. We missed funerals and weddings and anniversaries and special occasions. And, it's a memorial, of course, to honor the Kings and the other Boston leaders, but it is a memorial for all of us. It's about remembrance of a time. It's to keep us accountable to that love and hope that we were longing for during the pandemic. And so I think it's aspirational in that way. We're on the eve of Boston's 400th anniversary in 2030. And so I think it's going to serve as a constant reminder of an aspiration and a sense of future for our city. And I think the elected officials that are here, the elected officials that we have, which are almost all women, right? And so this idea of this memorial raising up a powerful woman in the movement in a time where almost all of the most important elected officials in our region are women.
I wonder if we can reflect a little bit more on your choice of the word belonging. I was thinking about that last night. I went to Emerson College. Our student housing was in the Back Bay. And there were times, I think, in the 90s when I went to school here where I kind of felt a little out of place. I was sort of a sore thumb. But not far from there, there's now this memorial to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. It does provide a sense of belonging that maybe didn't exist before.
Yeah, and I think people forget the historic nature of Beacon Hill, which was the first black neighborhood in Boston. And so it's about reclaiming space. I think for a lot of folks who come to central Boston, they don't realize how diverse of a city we are. We're about 51% people of color, and the memorial reflects that sense of belonging. And so we're also honoring other Boston leaders from the 50s, 60s, and 70s. 45 85% of those other honorees are women. 3 of them are indigenous, 3 of them are Asian, 3 of them are Latinx, 2 of them identify as Jewish, 1 of them a Unitarian minister, James Reeb, who was murdered by white supremacists. And so it's a diverse community of Boston leaders during this time. It tells a complete whole story, and I think that's what they'll get when they come to Boston, a complete whole story of our history.
I couldn't have imagined when this was an idea that a monument will represent so many of those things.
Me either.
That's so authentic.
Me either. I couldn't have imagined this day, and earlier when we were talking, just chatting, and you say, Amari, you're so calm. I just don't know which I'm.
He came up here. I was like, how are you feeling today? You're just cool as a cucumber.
You know when like your computer malfunctions into the blue screen? I'm in blue screen mode. I don't know whether to be happy, sad, or joyous, or humbled. So it's like,
Well, listen, congratulations
Thank
on
you.
this day. We are proud to be your partners in this effort.
Thank you.
It is our honor to be the messenger.
Your role as storytellers in this moment where we're telling new storytelling is critical. We could not have done it without you, and we thank you for being partners with us in this journey.
Amari Paris Jeffries, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, we do want to head out to Eli Rosenberg. He showed us pretty much the creation back in Walla Walla, Washington. But Eli, how did it come here to Boston?
It's definitely an interesting story because as we've been showing you, it is quite large and this is historic. And so you feel this anticipation in the air, this buzz as well. And even though it is still wrapped up, it is drawing quite a crowd. But it was not easy getting the embrace here to the Common. Question for you. How the heck do you move 40,000 pounds of bronze across the United States?
There's definitely like a dizziness and some kind of pounding of the heart.
We are just minutes away from the official unveiling of the Embrace. But getting this memorial to its new home here in the Boston Common was not easy. The Embrace, inspired by this photo of the Kings after King won the Nobel Peace Prize in 1964.
So I think we're trying and we attempted to build a memorial that's built to last.
And that this is. The Embrace constructed in Walla Walla, Washington. NBC 10 Boston traveling to Washington this past June for an exclusive look at the Embrace being built. The foundry here, one of the few places able to tackle a project of this size. But that meant the Embrace first had to be built some 3,000 miles from Boston. Then, just before Thanksgiving, the Embrace, all 609 pieces of it, was deconstructed, wrapped, and loaded up on trucks.
I want to say each truck took about 2 or 3 days to get here. It was quite a labor of love to get it here.
From there, the Embrace built again, this time in the Boston Common. And that right there is how you move 40,000 pounds. The Embrace's place on the Boston landscape, now ready to be unveiled.
We can now say that we actually are monumentalizing that gesture towards unconditional and infinite love in a work of art is amazing.
We talk about that trek from Walla Walla, Washington, here to Boston Common. One of the people who probably had a few sleepless nights as that was en route, Jonathan Evans, Mass Design Group, joining us. What's the feeling out here today for you?
It's such an amazing day, feeling so full of pride and honor. It's just great to see this place being open, seeing everybody enjoying it and experiencing the Embrace. It's a great moment, great day.
You working with Willis Thomas, obviously, on this design. It all started with a picture, and here we are today.
Yeah, quite a journey. It's been such a labor of love over the last 4 or 5 years trying to make this and put this here in Boston. It kind of feels like it already belongs. It feels like it's part of the city already. So again, really, really excited to have been a part of this one.
And what was that like? You had to find a place to have it built, where you had to go all the way to Walla Walla, Washington, and then you had to bring it back here. A lot of logistics in this.
Oh yeah, I mean, certainly a product of this scale and this magnitude. I think, again, we've been trying to make it feel timeless. It's simple in its expression, but the amount of labor and people involved, hundreds over the years to make this all happen. Again, it's been quite a journey to put this together, again, from Washington State all the way here, the stoners from Wisconsin all the way here, and everybody really brought their A game to make this come together.
When we talked earlier this week, you said one of the things you were looking forward to is to see people's reaction when they see this for the first time. We're almost there.
It's been great. Even just now, it's half covered, but people are going in there, and just the emotion that people are feeling is exciting. And even just also the Plaza, which has the names of 65 local Boston civil rights heroes, watching people take that journey and kind of understand these other names. It's been exciting to tell this deeper story and have people embrace it.
One of the things that strikes me out here as we see all of this is it doesn't look new. It looks like it's been here for a while. One of the goals?
That was absolutely one of the goals. Again, it wants to feel like it's part of Boston. It's telling stories of where Boston was and kind of what it wants to be as a city moving forward. So, again, that was one of the goals here, to make something that felt part of the place and part of the city.
Amazing work.
All right, thank you.
It's been awesome to see.
Thank you.
Send it back to you guys.
All right, thank you, Eli. Pretty incredible. 3,000 pounds from Washington to Boston?
Yeah, 3,000 miles, 37,000 pounds.
Yes, okay.
Yeah. And it's a lot of numbers. I don't know how they did it, but they did an amazing job. I can't wait for you to see it once the tarp is unveiled and you can see the embrace. NBC 10's Malcolm Johnson has another special guest with him. We heard from former Governor Deval Patrick a moment ago, and I understand the mayor is there with him now.
Yeah, that's right, Glenn. You know, we are all here today to celebrate the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King, someone who has made so much history in our nation's history. Now we are joined by a woman who has made some history of her own as the first woman of color to be elected mayor of Boston. Mayor, when you look around today and you see this here in your city, how do you take it in? How do you embrace this kind of love?
It's an incredible day, and this is at the same time a culmination of so much that has come before, community efforts, a vision, a belief that in this historic sacred space, the first public park in the country, home to so many important marches and conversations and demonstrations, that this legacy should be enshrined here. But it's also a day of looking forward, that it's not just about one piece of public art, as powerful as it is about the education, the community partnerships, and all of the continued legacy that we're going to build on.
Mayor, your offices are just around the corner. A number of tourists make their way into the Common when they see the city for the first time. What does that mean to you? You know, when people come into the city, they'll be seeing this memorial.
We are a city that is often known for our history of way, way back, right? Our very important role in the American Revolution and what it meant to stand up for freedom and see buildings from 400 years ago. But Boston and the values that we have here have played a role in shaping history all along the way in the most important fights of every generation. And we are so honored that Boston's legacy has intertwined with that of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and of Miss Coretta Scott King. So to have that part of our firmly embedded history representing what our country is about, what our city is about, we hope that will spark conversation and draw people in even more.
Mayor, we thank you for your time. All right, enjoy your day. I'll see you. Guys, we'll send it back to you all.
Malcolm, thank you. Just a little while ago, we aired the documentary on the Kings, and I had the pleasure of interviewing Mayor Wu for that. And we spent some time talking about what this would mean to her kids. She has young kids, as you know, and she talked about bringing them here to see this monument and how it will bring a piece of history about the city of Boston that most people don't know. And she was really excited about that opportunity.
I think if you did get the chance to watch the documentary, there were so many stories that I didn't even know. So many intimate stories and so many details that, you know, it's pretty incredible when you watch it. And then also when you come to this monument, you learn so much more about everything.
And that documentary is available on our website. I encourage you to check it out.
Yeah, and you know, today is like, you know, the sigh of relief. We're doing this big unveiling, but celebrations of Dr. Martin Luther King have been taking place all week long.
One event held this past Sunday had special significance.
We are one. We are one. We are one.
It was the annual MLK convocation at Roxbury's 12th Baptist Church. It's a special place. That's the church where Dr. King served on the ministerial team during his time in Boston. He also met his wife, Coretta, through the church, a parishioner, set them up on a date. The service celebrated how far the state has come since Dr. King's time, including electing the first black woman to become Attorney General in the state, Andrea Campbell. Campbell spoke after she was presented with the MLK Leadership Award.
I freely name my faith everywhere I go, including in this political arena, always inspired by where I come from. Both give me the courage and the conviction not to waste this opportunity, especially for those that have felt left out and left behind for far too long.
Sunday's service also delved further into how Dr. King and Coretta met, ultimately becoming leaders in a nationwide civil rights movement. You know, after seeing that video and talking to Reverend Brown earlier, I'm putting a visit to the 12th Baptist Church on a Sunday on my to-do list. I'm definitely going to go.
You gotta listen to him.
Yeah.
We want to head over to Malcolm Johnson. He's with another special guest. Hi, Malcolm.
Hey, thanks, guys. So right now we're joined by Colette Phillips, and Colette runs and organizes the longest-standing black-owned PR company in the city of Boston. You've been here in this city. You've called it home for a long time. When you remark and you look around you today, just how do you take this in? What does it mean to you?
Oh my goodness. As someone who came to Boston many moons ago in the middle of busing and knew how Boston had a very contentious relationship, intercultural, this is a wonderful reclaiming of our city as an inclusive, diverse city, celebrating Boston's rich history, its diversity, and its multiculturalism. And this, I believe, will contribute to changing the way people see Boston, because this is all of what Dr. King stood for.
You say this is what Dr. King stood for. You know, when he led that march with some 20,000 people from Roxbury to here to the Common, do you think this was the Boston he was envisioning when he was at the State House speaking to the joint legislature? Do you think this is what he had in mind?
Absolutely, and I can feel his spirit here today. His and his wonderful wife, Coretta Scott King. This is, remember he said he had a dream, and this is, I would say, the end, not the end, but I would say the fruition of his vision, his dream for a place where people, regardless of their background, their socioeconomic standing, can come together and celebrate. And that's what we're doing here today. I am so proud to have served on the host committee, and I congratulate Paul English, who started this vision with the funding initially, and Liz Walker, and of course the fabulous Amari Paris Jeffries. Yes.
Well, Colette, we thank you so much for your time and bringing people together, something Dr. King did, something you do in your work on a daily basis. We appreciate your time.
Thank you. So good to be here.
Thank you, Colette. All right, guys, we'll send it back to you all.
All right, Malcolm, Colette mentioned that I Have a Dream speech in Washington, D.C., and of course, a couple of years later, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was speaking right here in the Boston Common.
Again, full circle. We do want to go to our Eli Rosenberg, who's with the artist behind The Embrace. Hi, Eli.
You know, let's talk about how we got to this point right here. It was not easy. We've been talking about how long it took to get here, but there's also this worldwide competition. And the artist you're about to meet beat out 125 other people worldwide for this right here. And the Embrace, it's still wrapped up, about to be unveiled, but as you can see, it is already drawing a crowd. All of this started with one photo. An idea years in the making, the inspiration drawn from the love of two trailblazers who found love in the Boston Common.
It's real, it's here, and it'll be here.
The Embrace is set to be unveiled in just minutes. It really is all about love. The love of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and his wife Coretta Scott King. It all inspired by this picture.
This is the moment Dr. King won the Nobel Peace Prize in October 1964.
That was a landmark moment in their lives, and so we're crystallizing it in this monumental sculpture in a place where they went on their very first date.
Turning this photo to this design to this build-out at the Foundry in Walla Walla, Washington was not easy. NBC 10 Boston getting an exclusive look at the process this past June.
The glee on his face first, because we don't know him for being a gleeful person. But then I saw how tightly he was embracing his wife, but also how firmly she was holding him up. And I thought that that was a really powerful metaphor for the way that she supported him during his life, but also the way she carried his legacy on her shoulders with such dignity and grace.
The embrace beating out 125 other designs, also forming a heart that can be viewed from the inside. A monument ready to show the power of love for this generation and beyond.
I feel like there's almost a holy experience, because you look up and you see the heavens through their embrace. And so you can imagine that from the bird's eye view, they see you. And through that embrace, we all have the same potential that the Kings did.
Isn't that awesome right there? And now we don't have today without this man right here, the artist behind it all, Hank Willis Thomas. Thanks for joining us. Mass Design Group as well. What's the feeling today?
Oh, I am just elated. Look at all the people here who came out to be part of this amazing, epic, historic moment. I'm just like speechless, actually.
How you guys feeling?
We're feeling terrific. It's an incredible event for Boston.
And the clouds parted. We're right on schedule.
One question for you. We talked in that piece right there about how you were going through some pictures and you came across that picture. What made you stop?
Just the glee on their faces. The fact that, Martin Luther King in that moment was just so full of joy. And then also to see the pride on her face and just the power of their embrace. I realized that I was a result of their love and their commitment to nonviolence and peace.
It's been a journey to get here. Yeah. Obviously the worldwide competition, the design. For you as an artist to now see it here, what is that feeling like?
My mother's here, so I just feel I'm making my family proud.
You definitely are. Yeah. Thank you so much for everything.
Thank you.
Thank you guys. It's awesome to see you in person. Thank you. Send it back to you guys.
Hank Willis Thomas, thanks very much, Eli. This must be such a special day for him. He must be filled with so many nerves and emotion. But I think one thing is for sure, he has done an amazing job with this statue and everything that it represents.
Oh, incredible. And some of the speakers talk about, there are so many emotions for today, but we want to get to Malcolm Johnson. He's with another special guest.
Hey, that's right. Thank you, Priscilla. Right now, we are joined by Congresswoman Amari Presley. Thank you, Congresswoman, for joining us.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here. It's a glorious day.
It is. It is. I think about your own journey. First black woman to be elected into Boston City Council. First black woman elected into Congress from the state. How much of a role did Dr. King's life and legacy play in influencing you in your own career path?
Well, I derive strength and inspiration and instruction from Dr. King's example every single day. Really, as one of the early architects of the Civil Rights Movement, and I could argue one of the original co-founders of the Black Lives Matter movement, he's provided us with a blueprint for organizing, for mobilization, for radical change. And I certainly have used and leveraged the power of organizing to advance legislative change, to advance and actualize justice. And that is something that I learned from Dr. King.
Dr. King getting his PhD in theology at BU. You went to BU for general studies for a number of years. Have you ever considered the overlap in the two of you all's life?
No, I wouldn't dare. He's too much of a giant. But I would say that one of the ways in which there could be some connectedness there is just the role that our faith has played in our lives and the ways in which we have sought through movement building, through legislative advocacy to actualize our faith. to be champions for those ignored, left out, and left behind. And so I'm very humbled, grateful to stand on their shoulders, to be a beneficiary of the foundation that was laid not only by the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., but by Coretta Scott King. And of course, that is why we're here today for the historic embrace of the Unveiling, which is a testament and a tribute to the role that they both played in advancing justice.
Advancing justice, something that we're still fighting to do to this day. Ayanna, we appreciate your time. Thank you. Enjoy it. We know you'll be speaking later on today as well.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Thank you all. We'll send it back to you.
Okay, Malcolm, thank you. We can see behind you that so many people are starting to fill in the seating area in front of the stage for the program that will begin at 1 o'clock. But not everybody is here. Some people are on the way, literally.
Yeah, so our Alicia Palumbo, she's along a procession route. It begins at Newberry, and they are walking all the way here. Alicia, where are you seeing right now?
Yeah, we are in the public garden as we speak, making our way towards you in this interfaith procession. It's very moving. You can see so many people here with me of so many different faiths, so many different races and backgrounds. And I'm joined now by Rabbi Michael Shire with the Central Reform Temple. Rabbi, can you tell me what the significance is of this procession?
We're so excited about the unveiling of the Embrace Boston sculpture and the memory of Reverend Martin Luther King and his wife Coretta Scott King, and in memory of Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel's march with Reverend King on his journeys in protest for civil rights and for equity. We too feel that we want to stand with the African American civil rights movement and stand for equity, for racial justice, for equality for all, and for freedom for all. And as Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel said when he marched from Selma to Montgomery, he felt like his legs were praying, because that was the work of standing up in alliance with the African American community, with the racial diversity of this city and of this state, and of course the denominations and the religions and the faiths that accompany us today, Jewish, Christian, all faiths, all denominations. We're delighted that we can all be together and stand together, march together on this very special day of Embrace.
Thank you so much for your time. We're going to let you keep going on this procession so we can get you to the unveiling, because that will be happening shortly as we continue to make our trek here so they can actually see the Embrace in person. Back to you.
All right, yeah, Alicia, we are waiting for you guys to come. We're just moments away from the big moment.
We want to get back to NBC 10's Malcolm Johnson, who is with Governor Maura Healey. In the first weeks on the job, she is here at the Boston Common for this historic event. Malcolm.
Very much a historic event, not just for the state, but really for the country, a point that Priscilla made earlier today. Now joined with Governor Maura Healey. Maura, we were just talking, this is really a celebration for the state.
Oh, indeed it is. We're here today in Boston, home to the country's first public park, but it truly is an extension that really has ripples effect throughout the Commonwealth, and that's why you see so many people from across Massachusetts. It's a day of celebration and an affirmation of Dr. King's legacy, his legacy as somebody who always stood for social justice, for equality, for fairness, and we're reminded of those lessons in the work we do today in government going forward. It's a beautiful day for the state.
Governor, last week you talked about wanting to retain people here in the state, how a lot of people are leaving the state, how we need to make measures that will allow for more people to stay here. Equality and justice, very much a part of your mission.
Absolutely. I mean, these are core principles, foundational principles of our state that we literally want to embrace as a Commonwealth. And I can promise you, as governor, we're going to center equity in all the work that we do. And so today is a wonderful day, wonderful celebration of Dr. King and his legacy, also of all the honorees who are being recognized. Important that we recognize and lift up today's community activists, today's people who are moving forward every day in the spirit of Dr. King. And it's just a terrific, terrific day for the city and for the state.
Very much so. Congratulations.
Thank you. Nice to see you, Mel.
Thank you, Governor. We'll talk to you. Bye. All right. Governor Healey, you all. We'll send it back to you.
It's so great to hear from so many people who have come together for this event. In the area that Malcolm has been speaking to you from, it's invited guests. The public is invited as well, but they're in an area that's slightly beyond a cordoned off portion that you saw Malcolm reporting from. But everybody can see what's going on in the inside. And all of us, of course, are here for the moment that the black tarp comes off the remaining of that statue right there, the embrace. 20 feet high, 25 feet wide, 38,000 pounds, 609 pieces, all sort of woven together to create this massive bronze memorial on the grounds of the Boston Common. This is a procession from over in the Back Bay that's making its way to the Boston Common. They just, I think, crossed Boylston Street to get here to the Boston Common. They'll be here soon. Thousands coming out to see the unveiling of this monument.
I know, it's already a packed house. We've heard, take your seats. It's about to begin in just moments. Really, everyone, this is years in the making.
Absolutely.
Started about from what, 2017?
It did, yeah.
When this idea just came about from going to San Francisco and looking at what they have there, and now bringing something so incredible to the city of Boston.
And remember, the embrace is a tribute to a photo in 1964 when the Kings found out that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. won the Nobel Peace Prize. He embraced with his wife, and that moment in history was captured, and it was the inspiration for the monument here at the Boston Common. The program is about to begin on the stage to officially unveil the embrace. Let's listen in.
Between all of you beautiful people and this incredible ceremony that's about to happen. So we'd like to get everyone to take their seats so we can get NBC to not kick us out a little late. And in a few short moments, we're gonna get going. If you can hear my voice, clap your hands once. If you can hear my voice and you are sitting in your seat ready to begin, clap your hands twice. Fasten your seatbelts. Get those tissues ready. Please keep all your senses and love focused on this stage because we're about to begin. Thank you.
And now please welcome the voices of Embrace.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring. Ring with the harmony of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the lifting sky. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea.
Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song
done. Let us march on till victory is won. God of our wearies, God of our silent tears, thou who has brought us thus far on the way, thou who has by thy might led us into the light. Keep us forever in the path we pray. Lest our feet stray from the places, our God, where we met thee. Lest our hearts, drunk with the wine of the world, we forget thee. Shadowed beneath thy hand, may we forever stand, true to our God, true to our native land. True to our God, true to our native land. True to our God, true to our native land. True to our God, true to our native land. True to our God, true to our native land. To our God, true to our native land. True to our God, true to our native land. True to our God, true to our native land. True to our God, let us march on till victory is won.
The Embrace Boston community welcomes Latoyia Edwards.
Hello, family. You got me dancing today. I didn't expect to open like that, my goodness. Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, everybody. I need my family in Dorchester to hear you right now, so let's start over. Good afternoon, everybody. That's how we're going to do this one. My name is Latoyia Edwards, and I am your host, your traffic cop, your guide for today. And what a time and what a celebration we have planned for you today. Now, clearly, there's so much energy in this moment, and we want to elevate it right now, take it to a new level. I see you're ready to have a good time. So please join me in that brief celebratory hand-clapping exercise that Duncan, our executive director, started earlier to kick off this exceptional day. Now, I see some people in the audience, you're looking like I don't have rhythm. Don't worry, all you have to do is follow me. Here we go. If you celebrate the fact that the Kings, Coretta and Martin, could have chosen any institution of the country, but chose Boston institutions for their graduate education, if you celebrate that they met and began their beautiful love story here in Boston, if you celebrate their lives, their sacrifice, and their legacy, if you celebrate it all, please join me right now and clap your hands one time. Beautiful. If you feel fortunate to be able to witness the official unveiling of the Embrace here on the Boston Common, if you feel fortunate to be a part of this monumental occasion cemented in U.S. and global history, please join me right now and clap your hands 2 times. Marvelous. Finally, if you are excited about Embrace Boston, the work they have accomplished to bring us the Embrace Monument that they are set to do commemorating Juneteenth in the city and the upcoming Embrace Center. If you are excited about the Embrace Boston's impact on the city, on the country, on the world for generations to come, if you can, please stand up again right now. Join me right now in giving them get up everybody. Join them right now and giving them a loud, a boisterous, a wonderful, a foot-stamping applause right now, yes! This is what we're doing. Yes, thank you. You may take your seat. Yes. Now, as the morning anchor for NBC 10 Boston, I'll calm it down. I am honored to bring you the warmest greetings from my station, my family, my workplace, NBC 10 Boston. We have been with the Embrace Boston team from the very beginning because we know that the Embrace story was worthy of coverage still and now, not just for today, not just for this week, but also for the future and beyond. Over the last 18 months, we forged an unbreakable partnership with Embrace Boston due to our shared values. And that time we aired 2 specials. We went live from the Embrace Ideas Festival, traveled to Walla Walla, Washington to see the monument being made. We look forward to being there for the construction of the Embrace Center. We have 10 cameras on this common right now to bring this live coverage, and this is just the beginning. So, in honor of that, please join me right now in applauding this worthy partnership. And if I may, on a personal level, as a woman who was an Emerson College student with her dorm right over there through those trees, and looked out on the Boston Common, could not have imagined this. As a woman who was once a little girl raised in the Columbia Point Housing Project in Dorchester, just miles from this storied common, but as a kid I often felt like it was just a world away. We're on school field trips from the inner city here, or Easter family visits down here to take special pictures because we knew this was a perfect place to be. We looked for ourselves, but we did not always see ourselves, though we love the common so much. So I am absolutely humbled and emotional to stand here on this stage as your MC, because I am also standing on the shoulders of the many people of color in this city, like my mom, who was a kid during the school desegregation, getting pelted with rocks from angry mobs as he entered high school. I represent those many people in Boston who passed away without seeing this promise come to life. So for all of you watching at home, who are moved by this magical moment, for you in the audience right now who are moved by this moment, the federal, state, local dignitaries, esteemed clergy members, community activists, Embrace founders, supporters, artists, neighborhood leaders on this day as we prepare to unveil the Embrace, you should be proud of a new day, being a part of a new conversation, a new face for the city of Boston. And for that, please give yourselves a round of applause right now. Yes! I love you right back. The most proper way to kick off the unveiling is by acknowledging the land the monument is built upon. For that acknowledgement, we have an elder from the Massachusetts tribe at Ponkapog. Please join me in giving a robust round of applause right now to Elizabeth Solomon, everyone.
Well, I truly am going to take it down a little bit. We're gathered today in native space and on the traditional lands of the Massachusetts tribe. Whether you live here or are just visiting, I ask that you treat our land and our waters as precious, because they are. 10,000 years ago, Boston Harbor was dry land, and we were here. 1,000 years ago, much of what is now known as Boston was not land, but water, and we were here. 400 years ago, colonists came to occupy our land, and we were here. Today, most of Greater Boston is a major urban area lived in with others, and still we are here. We remember those who came before us, and we prepare for those who come after us. Here is where our ancestors laughed, cried, loved, made music, practiced our beliefs, shared both food and knowledge, and made both useful and sacred things. Here is where we raised our children and buried and honored our dead. Here is where here is where we continue to live, holding the land and traditions of our ancestors, and here is where future generations of our children will become our new ancestors. As a Black Native woman, I'm acutely aware that the colonization of this continent and the subsequent founding of its current nations took place with the concurrent objectives of eradicating one group of people to appropriate their land and enslaving another to exploit that land. Dr. King understood and articulated the strong interconnections between this country's policies regarding Native Americans and its traditions of anti-Black racism, and he was an outspoken advocate for all peoples oppressed by the machinations of white supremacy. All of us are familiar with Dr. King's work for civil rights and to dismantle white supremacy. What many of us may not be aware of is Dr. King's understanding of how each and every one of us is connected with everything else in the world. In his Christmas sermon in 1967, Dr. King said, quote, "It really boils down to this, that all life is interrelated. We are all caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied into a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly." Unquote. Unfortunately, many of us see the earth as a commodity to be exploited, rather than the place that nurtures all living beings. We see our interactions with each other and the larger world as transactional rather than reciprocal. We see ourselves as separate from, instead of integrated with, nature, and as a result, we consistently take more than we need. Earlier, I asked each of you to treat our lands and waters of this place as something precious. Now I go further and ask you to remember one of King's messages and to take it with you from this day, that we are inseparably interconnected with everything else in the world. This means acknowledging that all that we do, even the individual breaths that we take, have an effect well beyond our individual bodies, and we need to act accordingly. It means evaluating what we need and only using those resources. It means leaving plenty for our human and more than human relatives. It means interacting with all living things and the earth itself as a loved one. May all that we do honor the earth and prepare the way for all of those to come. Thank you.
One more round of applause for Elizabeth Solomon. The Embrace began as a bold labor of love and passion. Let's meet two vital members of the team responsible for that passion and that love. Please join me right now, welcoming to the stage two gems in the community, really. Co-chairs of the Embrace, Reverend Liz Walker, who I admire and is bowed to as the original queen of Boston television, and thank you so much for being my inspiration. And also Reverend Jeffrey Brown, everybody, yes.
Thank you. I was about 5 years old when my father took me with him to Arch Street Baptist Church in my hometown of Little Rock, Arkansas, to hear Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. It was probably after the successful Montgomery bus boycott. Of course, I was too young to understand anything. All I knew is Daddy was going to go see the King. I thought that was Jesus, so I better be there. But I will never forget the electricity of that moment, when ordinary people were inspired to take extraordinary measures in the name of love. Love, not as a sentiment or a romance, but as a creative weapon, a force for change. It was that love that moved me in 2017 when Paul English asked me to join him in heading up this project to memorialize Dr. and Mrs. King's impact here in Boston. The first thing we did was to reach out to people in neighborhoods all over the city who wanted to see this memorial but demanded that it would be more than metal and stone, who demanded that the same spirit who built it would inspire thought, words, and action for justice. And working together with others, including my favorite preacher, one of my favorite preachers, Pastor Jeff Brown, and so many of you, this has been an extraordinary journey.
Wonderful. Good afternoon, everyone. Oh, come on now, you got to do better than that. Good afternoon, everyone. It is an honor for me to work with my friends Paul and Reverend Liz on this monumental project. I grew up reading just about everything that Dr. King ever wrote, all of his speeches. I followed Mrs. King as she forged the pathway in this country to celebrate her husband and their collective mission with a national holiday. As I view this magnificent sculpture, I'm reminded of Dr. King's words, "We are all tied together in a single garment of destiny." And Coretta Scott King's words, "Freedom and justice cannot be parceled out in pieces to suit political convenience." No truer words have been spoken. And as we experience this age of uncertainty, these words remind us that we cannot give up.
Both Dr. King and Coretta Scott King were strengthened body and soul in prayer, part of their unbroken cultural and spiritual bond to traditions that stretch back long before slavery for deliverance, liberation, and in actualizing their vision of the beloved community. In that spirit, many friends from synagogues around the city have marched through the streets today to join us, and we welcome you. And right now, we ask that all clergy would stand where you are as we pray. Eternal Mother, Father, God, whose wisdom has created us, whose love is the foundation of our lives, whether we act like it or not, we thank you that out of the long, arduous battle for justice and human dignity, you have brought us to this place. Our rejoicing rises high as the listening skies, that we can stand on this hallowed ground, remembering the shoulders that lift us and the arms that hold us and teach us how to hold each other for this celebration and the work ahead.
As we continue in prayer, we remember our forebears who endured the lash, the pain of alienation, who survived and prayed for succeeding generations to be free. We remember the cloud of witnesses, the names surrounding and embedded within this work of art. And we pray for the journey ahead. And we celebrate this daughter and son of America who came to this city, found each other, and together changed history. And as we celebrate them, we remember the words of James Weldon Johnson, God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, thou who hast brought us thus far on the way, thou who hast by thy might led us into the light, keep us forever in the path we pray. Lest our feet stray from the places, our God, where we met thee, lest our hearts, drunk with the wine of the world, we forget thee. Shadowed beneath thy hand, may we forever stand, true to our God and true to our native land. And to that, let everyone say, Amen. We now together introduce a brilliant and amazing young man who embodies the promise for the quest of equity and the beloved community.
And to whom we are so proud and humbled to call, I call him my son, but anyway, he's our leader, the executive director of Embrace Boston, Mr. Amari Paris Jeffries. On your feet! Woo!
Thank you, everyone, for being here today. I was trying not to cry. I'm just so grateful to give something back to this city that gave me so much. So much. I could see the staff looking at me. I was supposed to have 2 minutes. I was sit up here and cry for 2 minutes. I want to start by thanking all the workers, the servers, the production crew, the welders, the laborers, the lighting and production crew, the Embrace Boston team, the Castle team, the volunteers, the sponsors, Latoyia Edwards and NBC 10, and other media partners, the City of Boston, our mayor, our governors, for your countless hours in making this weekend a huge success. I want to thank my family, my wife, my children, and all of you, my friends, old and new. Your presence honors this day. Putting into words my feelings about today has been difficult. I am sure some of you are completely surprised that I am at a loss of words, because I like to talk, and y'all know this. The journey to get here today has been an adventure I won't soon forget. I am deeply humbled by your faith in me and your trust in Embrace Boston. As we work to be here today, I want to thank everyone who walked this journey with us. Thank you to everyone who advocated on our behalf, for standing side by side as we push through to accomplish this truly monumental task. I didn't say that right. I'm sorry. I'm still trying to get myself together. Without all of you today, we wouldn't be standing here. This piece by Willis Thomas and Mass Design Group is not only a symbol of the King's legacy, but it's embodiment of their love and the impact of the love within all of us. The embrace symbolizes community. Not one part of this journey has been a solo act, and I want to thank all of you, but I just want to shout out just a couple of people. Marie St. Fleur, Robin Powell Mendes. Those are the two executive directors who I got the opportunity to take this mantle from. And the countless number of volunteer hours that came from Kate Gedge, Rob Ryan, and Sammy Nablisi. People from various agencies, walks of life, and point of view came together to make this a reality. And unlike your favorite Netflix show, everyone was renewed for another season. We didn't cancel nobody in this process. The spark started with my friend Paul English. Where are you, Paul? There you are. And now has grown into the first memorial on Boston Common in decades, with co-founders Reverend Liz Walker, Reverend Jeffrey Brown, Damon and Dr. Kia Martin. Clap it up. The embrace is poised to be Boston's Statue of Liberty. Or if you like home decor, it's one of those live, love, laugh signs, whichever one y'all like. Today is not the end of the road for Embrace Boston. It's just the beginning. It's the start of a new journey as we ready ourselves for the creation of Embrace Center in Roxbury. I remember the first time I got in a call, Mayor Kim Janey cussed me out. She's like, you know you're not gonna forget about Roxbury, so we're not gonna forget about Roxbury. That is our next project. As some of you know, we are part of the HYM, My City of Peace team that will be developing P3 Roxbury. We're excited to bring this innovative cultural center to the heart of Boston. The Embrace Center will be a 31,000 square foot new town square, extending Nubian Square all the way to Ruggles T-Stop. As a part of our spatial justice strategy, we believe that creating new spaces is what's necessary for a radically inclusive Boston by 2030. I hope you're ready to take that ride with us. But for now, let's enjoy this historic moment. Let's celebrate this beautiful work of art. Let's celebrate the enduring impact of the King legacy. Let's celebrate the Boston we are becoming together. Okay, y'all can clap for that. That was my moment, that was my line. Congresswoman Presley, I didn't deliver it right. I know. Where's State's Attorney Rachel Rollins? Because she looks at me, she gives me the look like, Amari, you didn't deliver that right. Where are you? She always gives me that look like, you didn't do that right, Amari. Do better. I now have the opportunity to introduce our founder, Paul English, co-chair of Embrace Boston, and Damon Martin, co-founder and CEO of Wherewithal and co-founder of Embrace Boston.
Thank you, Amari, and good afternoon, everyone. Boston has taken a long journey to get to this day. My journey began in Boston Public Schools in the 1970s. The desegregation of our schools via busing allowed me to have black classmates for the first time. That experience opened my eyes and my heart. Growing up, I read everything I could by Dr. King, who I consider a prophet and a poet. When he spoke of the beloved community, I thought, that's where I want to live. But I looked around, and I didn't see it in my Boston. And when I learned about Martin and Coretta Scott King's deep connection to the city, I felt this is a part of Boston's story we must tell. 5 years ago, I co-founded King Boston with Reverend Liz Walker and with the help of Mayor Marty Walsh. We didn't try to impose a vision what this memorial should be. We went to Boston's black community and listened. The community told us this has to be more than a memorial. It has to be a catalyst for change and a movement for justice. And that's what Boston's black community built in Embrace Boston. The work of art we unveiled today is all we hope for and more. The Embrace offers a symbol of love to inspire us. It tells us, let's get to work building the beloved community. In my work going forward, I'll strive to dismantle wealth inequity in Boston. I'm going to continue to listen and learn from Boston's black community. Today, I ask Boston's business leaders to join me. I want to thank every single person who gave from their hearts and souls on this journey. It's one of the most meaningful things I've ever done. And today, we're just getting started.
Thank you, Paul. All kind of stuff up here. All the incredible elected officials who have supported this project and chose to mark this moment as significant, thank you. There could be no better love to put on display for the entire world to see than the love the Kings had for each other. It is not just the love of a couple, but a show of love for humanity. It's now my prayer that this tremendous source of daily inspiration inspires us to act daily, to collectively do the work the Kings modeled. There is no deficit in human resources, Dr. King once said. The deficit is in human will. The well-off and secure have too often become indifferent and oblivious to the poverty and deprivation that is in their midst. The poor in our countries have been shut out of our minds and driven from the mainstream of society because we have allowed them to be invisible. We have allowed them to become invisible. 6 decades after Dr. King said that, we still do. Every day I wake up and I say, God, please give me the clarity of my purpose and the courage necessary to fulfill it. When Paul and Reverend Walker came to me with this incredible idea, my wife Kia and I immediately put major capital into this project so that our children and our children's children would see their likeness in what is good and possible. These days, I'm trying to pray more and say less, so I'll close with this. The human condition is one that cannot be ignored. We only have so much time on this earth. What are we waiting for? My sister Tanya was taken from us far too soon. People need help right now. We're in a moment where many of the health conditions killing black and brown folks are preventable. We need help right now. Our hospitals are filled with teenagers that are mentally looking for the very strength to stay alive one more day. Our children need help right now. Drive to the Demick Center here in Roxbury and see Dr. Anderson and his team displaying excellence in the care for those who need it. but it's not enough. For far too long, we've seen our fellow man proceed, and woman, proceed as if we're in a zero-sum game. Heads you win, tails I lose. In Boston, we now have a daily inspiration. Thanks to Brother Hank. To buck that trend and do better, yes, clap for that brother. We have a daily inspiration to buck that trend and do better. Now let's act upon it. Thank you.
Just the perfect words and message of inspiration. Let's give another round of applause for Amari Paris Jeffries, Paul English, and Damon Martin. Thank you for your service. You know, this is a perfect time to add a musical performance into the celebration, and we are excited to bring a huge talent to the stage performing America the Beautiful. And we all have heard this song sung, but this next gentleman can sing it, okay? I heard him practicing, and he brought tears to my eyes, singing in a good way, all right? So we are excited to present to you a member of the 2022 Embrace Boston Artist in Residence class, a Roxbury native, singer, songwriter, Amandi, being accompanied by Sean Alexander. Let's give them a warm welcome right now. Wow. Didn't I tell you? Give it up one more time for Amandi, accompanied by Sean Alexander, a member of the 2022 Embrace Boston Artist in Residence class. Just wonderful. All right. Well, right now we go from a Roxbury native to a Roslindale native with a message emphasizing why the embrace is so important to the city of Boston. Please join me right now in giving a vibrant welcome to Boston Mayor Michelle Wu.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much, Latoyia, and thank you to everyone who has already graced this incredible stage, and to all the luminaries gathered here, all those who have poured their hearts and hands and minds and energy into giving this gift of love to the city of Boston. I also, just sitting here inside the tent here, when you look behind the stage, you can see some of our Boston residents and visitors who have stopped to gather and are just outside the fence on the other side, who have come out and are standing on their porches on this building right behind this stage and park. This monument is for you too. The embrace is for all of us, and we know that especially our residents who are coming out on their balconies, they will be watching over this for us 24/7. And so thank you so much to leaders from every level of government and community. I stand here deeply humbled and honored to be in this role, lucky in this moment to watch this incredible transformation happening. So I want to start first and recognize that I stand here having received the baton from many others who have paved the way. Mayor Kim Janey, who has stewarded so much for this city and continues to do so. Mayor Marty Walsh, who partnered and poured every bit of resources and energy to getting this off the ground, charting new ground. And I also want to thank and recognize members of the King family who are here with us today. Thank you for choosing to be here in Boston and sharing so much with our city and our country. The two leaders that we are celebrating and forever commemorating here were forces to be reckoned with, lending their individual voices to the fights for racial and economic justice, demanding an equitable world for all of us, but their impact was greatest when they worked together, not only with each other, but with other organizers and change makers, communities and congregations across the country. The Kings understood that peace and shared prosperity were impossible to usher in alone. That to not only achieve those things, but to achieve them lastingly for the next generation meant building a society in which peace and prosperity can flourish, the beloved community. And it takes many hands to build that community. I actually see, scanning the audience, I see another mayor sitting here with us I didn't see before. Thank you so much to Mayor Ray Flynn, who is here as well today, and Mrs. Flynn. This community is embedded in the very ground holding up the memorial, which is why all around you'll see the names of the 69 local civil rights leaders who pushed to turn our city, as Dr. King urged in his speech here on the Common, into that testing ground for the ideal of freedom. This memorial honors ministers and justices, artists and scientists, educators and advocates, the countless outstretched arms and helping hands who welcomed the Kings and embraced their vision. Nearly 60 years ago, Dr. King led more than 20,000 people on a march from the William E. Carter Playground in Roxbury down Columbus Ave, right here, to our nation's first public park. The local newspapers' headlines called it a mile of marchers. And here, Dr. King urged the people of Boston to become agents of change, to make real the promise of democracy. The time is now, he said. And the time truly is now. This sculpture is not only a tribute to the philosophy of love and compassion that guided all the work the Kings did, but also a testament to its urgency and a reminder of our responsibility today to embrace every opportunity we have, to challenge violence with nonviolence, ignorance with empathy, and apathy with action. It's a reminder that the fight for equity is never easy, and we owe it to each other and the work to hold and support one another through the pain of injustice and in our triumphs against it. That is what Ms. Coretta Scott King is doing in the moment forever captured in this piece, where she hugs Dr. King, but even more so, holds him up as he takes a moment of relief and exhaustion and emotion to slump into her arms after learning he'd been awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. It's a powerful, poignant, necessary tribute to Ms. Coretta, who balanced her considerable activism with the work of maintaining household and raising children like so many women in her generation. In spite of the unequal expectations of society, she claimed her place as a leader in the global movements to achieve racial justice, gender justice, queer justice through the philosophy of nonviolence, going on to establish the Black Leadership Forum, the National Black Coalition for Voter Participation, and the Black Leadership Roundtable, to serve as head of the U.S. delegation of Women for a Meaningful Summit, and to advocate to amend the Civil Rights Act to be inclusive of the queer community. All the while, that's right, all the while she was a source of solace and strength for the man who would become the face of the movement, and for the movement's many faces who would come to see her love as the force that sustained them all. In the love they shared, the Kings found comfort and courage, a soft place to land, and the fuel to move forward. And now, thanks to Embrace Boston, the Boston Foundation, Office of Arts and Culture, the Boston Art Commission, the extraordinary talent of Hank Willis Thomas and Mass Design Group, and so many who have shaped and gotten us to this moment, we are all invited to share their embrace and sustain their vision, which in many ways was the King's mission, to open our eyes to the injustice of racism and bring more people into the movement for equity. With today's unveiling, this beautiful space and the embrace at its center, that mission is forever immortalized and given new life here in the heart of downtown. May it serve as a reminder for all of us, honoring the King's legacy and remembering that that means not only honoring the love, tenderness, and strength that guided their work, but cultivating it in ourselves to carry it forward in action. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you very much, Mayor Michelle Wu, for your powerful comments. We appreciate them deeply on this day. I've been waiting all day, all week, really the last several months to hear and to meet our next speakers. I don't know about you, but I simply can't imagine what it's like to carry the mantle and the bloodline of Dr. King and Mrs. King. They are the epitome of grace. And we right now are beyond fortunate to hear from Martin Luther King III, his wife, Andrea, I wanted to get it right. Did I say it right? I got it because I don't play, yes. Andrea Waters King and their daughter, 14-year-old Yolanda Renee King. Let's give them a loving Boston welcome to the stage.
Thank you, Boston. I probably want to thank you mostly for your weather today. I'm not a cold weather person, and I started this morning without a coat, but I had to graduate even though this is very warm for you. I'm from the South. We are from the South. But in all seriousness, this is such an amazing and wonderful occasion. And we are honored to participate in the unveiling of the Embrace Boston Memorial. It is a great pleasure to be a part of this unveiling ceremony for the memorial, which truly signifies the bond of love shared by my parents, Martin Luther King Jr. and Coretta Scott King. And whenever I've come to Boston in the past, I've always felt a powerful bond of solidarity with this first great American city. Of course, it is the city where my parents met and fell in love and decided to create a family. And in a way, I owe my very existence to Boston. As the place my parents found each other. In addition to all of that, Boston has a history like no other city in the world. Boston's history includes the legacy of some of the great leaders of the movement to abolish slavery: William Lord Garrison, Phyllis Wheatley, Wendell Phillips, Prince Hall, Lucretia Mott, and John Quincy Adams are all called Boston home at some point in their lives. In more modern times, this Boston has been the city that nurtured great political champions of civil rights. Some of the great thinkers about the philosophy and strategy of nonviolence, including Henry David Thoreau, W.E.B. Du Bois, Ralph Waldo Emerson, Howard Zinn, Noam Chomsky, and Gene Sharp have all called Boston home as well. I think my father was drawn like a magnet to Boston to complete his PhD, as my mother to the New England Conservatory of Music. They both love this city because of its proud heritage as a hotbed of the abolitionist movement and its unique intellectual and educational resources. And indeed, Boston became the place where they forged a partnership that would change America and make a powerful contribution to the Black freedom struggle. That's what I see in this beautiful monument. And now, a few words from my wife and partner, Andrea Waters King.
Thank you, honey. I too am dazzled by the power of this wonderful monument. Those hands, the way they clasp and hold on to each other. It's just a remarkable statement of mutual love and solidarity. To me, the strength and intertwined beauty of those hands symbolizes the hopes and dreams of two people who are in love and who share mutual determination to overcome the obstacles of racism, and not merely to survive, but also to prosper and build a better future together for themselves and future generations. To underscore the power of the relationship this sculpture symbolizes, I want to share a few words with you regarding what Martin Luther King Jr. said in his first book, Stride Toward Freedom, which was written after the Montgomery bus boycott, about his wife and partner and soulmate, Coretta Scott King. Through all of these trying and difficult days, Coretta remained amazingly calm and even-tempered. In the midst of the most tragic experiences, she never became panicky or over-emotional. She was always strong and courageous. She seemed to have no fear for herself. She was always a deep consolation to me and supported my every move. I am convinced that if I had not had a wife with the fortitude, strength, and calmness of Coretta, I could not have stood up amid the ordeals and tensions surrounding the Montgomery movement. In the darkest moments, she always brought the hope of light. What a wonderful blessing it was, not only for Black Americans, but for all Americans, that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. had a spouse who was equal to the enormous challenges as the leader of the American Civil Rights Movement. And might I add, as a footnote to history, was involved in the peace movement before her husband. And consider what Coretta Scott did after he was assassinated. She envisioned, raised the necessary funds, and built an international monument to Dr. King that has become a place of pilgrimage for freedom-loving people the world over. On top of that, she led a coalition that created the Martin Luther King Jr. National Holiday, which we will commemorate on Monday. I mean, think about that. A Black woman demanded that this nation stand up and honor the ideals of democracy and freedom and justice that Martin Luther King Jr. stood and fought and died and gave his life for. She was an embodiment and a reminder that the magic of little Black girls will no longer be ignored, and the power of Black women can no longer be denied. And now it's time to hear from her only grandchild, our daughter, Yolanda Renee King.
Thank you, Mom. I love this monument. I also see the love and strength and unity in these hands and how they symbolize a beautiful marriage and partnership. And it was one that changed the world. I never met my grandparents in person because they died before I was born, and yet I feel that I know them well. I have heard stories about them since I was a baby. I have studied their Sorry. It's one of those days.
No, that's your grandparents.
That's
your grandparents' love.
Yes, I think that my grandparents are really excited. I've studied their writings. I have listened to tapes of them speaking, and I have watched that show, and I have watched videos that show them in action. I feel that they are somehow with me, that our spirits are joined in the quest for a just, loving, and peaceful world. I am very proud to be their granddaughter, but I am also challenged by their inspiring legacies of vision and courage and hope and healing. But I know that I am not alone. There is a sense in which we are all children and grandchildren of Martin and Coretta Scott King. We are all challenged to carry forward their unfinished work. This is the spirit we must keep as we commemorate the 37th Martin Luther King Jr. holiday on Monday. Let's make it a great day of community service, a day of brotherhood, a day of sisterhood, a day of using your platform for good, a day of love and healing in the spirit of this wonderful monument. Thank you.
Phenomenal. Phenomenal. Miss Yolanda, sweetheart, can I grab you for a second? It's not in the program, but you just blew me away, and I am a journalist, and I gotta know your story, my sister. Come on over here for a second. Number one, who do you think you are?
Well, I just really see that there needs to be a lot of change in this world. And I think it is all our responsibility to really do something. And so I feel called to do this work. And yes, there are days when I want to give up, and days where I just never want to do this work again, and days where I feel that it's tough, and days where I feel sad. But then I see the love, and then I see so many people who also feel the same way as me, and seeing monuments, and seeing, I was talking about with my parents about how this is almost like Love 360, because this monument is dedicated to their love, and we really need more love in this world.
Yolanda Renee King, thank you for creating this next leader. You are exceptional in every way. You are your ancestors' wildest dreams, and we appreciate you here in Boston. My goodness. So apparently it's in your DNA. Thank you. Give it up one more time. Give it up one more time for the King family. Exceptional. Well, let's keep the high energy going right now with the importance of the embrace to the Commonwealth. Give a rousing round of applause to Massachusetts' brand new, newly elected governor, Maura Healey.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. And Yolanda, I just said to Latoyia, how do I follow that? It is such a privilege for all of us in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts to be graced with the presence of the King family this afternoon. To Martin, to Andrea, to Yolanda, thank you for being here. And if you look up behind that tent, there's a hill there, and there's a building. It's got a gold dome on it. And I want you to know that your father, your grandfather, spoke there on April 22nd, 1965. A Unitarian Universalist minister, James Reeb, from our community in Boston, was killed by a group of white men in Selma. And Dr. King was invited to give testimony to our legislature here. And Yolanda, I'm reminded of your grandfather's words he spoke that day. He said, ultimately, we must come to see that human progress never rolls in on the wheels of inevitability. It comes through the tireless efforts and the persistent work of dedicated individuals who are willing to be co-workers with God. So on those days that you are weary, you, all of us, are affirmed by the words of Dr. King. And again, we just thank you so much for being here today. I want to begin also by saying how wonderful it is to celebrate along my partners in public service, Mayor Michelle Wu, Congresswoman Amari Presley, you see Senator Markey. I know we're going to hear from former Governor Deval Patrick, and so many others. What a momentous occasion it is for the city of Boston, for the state of Massachusetts, and for the community that has made this memorial their mission. What a definition of teamwork. the vision of Hank Willis Thomas and the Mass Design Group, the commitment of Paul English and Demon Martin, the wisdom and encouragement of Reverend Liz Walker and Reverend Jeffrey Brown, the leadership of Amari Jeffries, the dedication of the Boston Foundation, the generous support from individuals and organizations, the uplifted stories of our local civil rights leaders, the inspiration and emotion of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and his beloved Coretta Scott King. History is being made today in the Commonwealth. Coretta said it best, maybe, when she said that the greatness of a community is most accurately measured by the compassionate actions of its members. That's all of you. That is all of us. That is the collective. That is the beloved community. The Embrace Memorial, after 6 years, 37,000 pounds, and a long cross-country journey, is here, is home. And it will forever serve as a reminder to all of us about what this city and what this state stands for, must stand for, and what we're capable of. Not to mention the power of compassion, of love, and a really good hug. Some laugh. I'm serious. A really good hug. Mr. Martin spoke. You rightly called out, sir, the disparities that persist in our community and in our Commonwealth. Disparities only exacerbated by this pandemic. But with these disparities, as challenging as they are opportunities. And it is a call to service and to action that all of us must answer. Especially here in Boston, especially here in Massachusetts, where, as noted, it is here where the Kings spent formative years together, fell in love, and forged long-lasting relationships within this community. It's here where Dr. King addressed a Massachusetts legislature and stressed our shared responsibility in giving people a sense of belonging, a sense of somebodyness, he called it. And it's here where, from this day forward, we will gaze up at interlocking arms and see it as a call to action for a more equitable and inclusive society. Because our greatest strength is our people. Our greatest strength is in one another. If we only see the common humanity among all of us. And that is something that Dr. King and Coretta Scott King lived every single day. We cannot reach our potential when so many, too many, are held back from reaching their own. That is why, Commonwealth, we must center equity in everything that we do. In everything that we do. You have my word that I will promise to do that every day as your governor. And know that no matter what challenge we face, no matter what lies ahead, we will stay true to who we are and should be, to act on our values, to never hesitate to stand up for justice, to lean on one another, just as Dr. King and Coretta Scott King do in this beautiful bronze statue. Knowing that we should, as they did, from wherever we are, from whatever time of day it is, always be looking to help those in need, just as they did, to see the person right in front of them. And I think that's what I'm reminded of most. The legacy of Dr. King to me is not only about pursuing a righteous path to fight indignity and injustice wherever we see it. To me, it is about something more than that. It is about seeing. It is about seeing and recognizing and respecting and uplifting the dignity, the worth of every single human being in our midst. Let this legacy live on. Let it empower us, City of Boston. Let it empower us, Commonwealth of Massachusetts. We are so grateful and so honored. Thank you very much.
Governor Maura Healey, thank you for your passionate call to action. We appreciate it. Now, after the unveiling of the Embrace, when you get a chance to explore the monument, there's a spectacular feature that you will really enjoy. It's called the 1965 Freedom Plaza, and right now, we have the distinct pleasure of dedicating it. The Living History Plaza surrounding the Embrace commemorates Dr. King leading tens of thousands of people in a civil rights march from Roxbury to the Parkman Bandstand to the State House, and Dr. King's address to the Massachusetts State Senate. And as you see, the 1965 Freedom Plaza is it's going to be a gorgeous tribute. Wait till you check it out. Embrace Boston expresses the highest gratitude to the city and the 1965 Plaza Selection Committee, chaired by two leaders in the community, and we should shout them out, Tito Jackson and Lamerchi Frazier, everybody. Embrace Boston called upon the community members of this city who contributed to Boston's civil rights movement to be featured on the 1965 Freedom Plaza of the Embrace Memorial. And alongside the Embrace, the plaza provides literally for you a living space for conversation around racial justice ideals and will be a permanent monument that reflects the diverse cultural history of Boston. Now, here's something fun. And I know they're going to put up a QR code, but I don't want you to do it right now if you can. After today's program, please visit the Embrace website and Embrace Boston website, where you can download an app that will literally transform you the next time you go and visit this monument. It's a 4-dimensional experience. It will have video for you on your phone. It will have audio. You can live and breathe the history and be a part of it and really immerse yourself. Again, download it at the end of this program. This public archive will uplift hidden and undertold stories of Boston's rich history and provide community members with deeper insight into Boston's full history. Now, I know I could read you the names of the phenomenal history makers featured in the 1965 Freedom Plaza, but I like to have a good co-anchor. So, right now, I'd like to call up 4 outstanding teenage community leaders to share the names with you. I want to let you know that honorees and members of their families are literally sitting under this tent right here with us right now. And so, while the names are read aloud by the teenagers, we ask that you hold your applause until the end, when we will ask everybody who can stand and rise from their seats and just really receive the accolades that they're due. In the meantime, please give a warm welcome to my teen co-hosts as they join me on the stage right now. Give it up for Brianna Catlin from Teen Empowerment, Carrie Mays, a social justice activist who works with Teen Empowerment Embrace Boston, Matt Smith-Stern, a leader at Boston Latin School, and my Asia Stokes-Haith, another involved student star at Boston Latin School. Look at these young leaders. They are wonderful in every way.
Sorry, I have to find it. Okay, sorry. Felix D. Arroyo, Thomas Irvin Atkins, Ruth M. Batson, Clara T. Bell, Councilor Bruce C. Bowling Sr., Senator Royal L. Bowling Sr., Representative Royal L. Bowling Jr., Reverend James P. Breeden, Senator Edward Brooke, Doris Bunty, Reverend Gil Caldwell, Arlene M. Carter, Reverend Vernon Carter, Melnia Cass, Robert N. Cord, Edward L. Cooper, and Carnell Eaton.
Barbara Elam, Harry Elam, Demita Fraser Edmond, Barry Gaither, Frida Garcia, Alan Gartner, Marvin E. Gilmore Jr., Kenneth Guskett, Mildred C. Healey, Henry Hampton, Reverend Dr. Michael E. Haynes, Herman Hemingway, Harry Holmdow, Julian T. Houston, Ellen Jackson, Herbert H. Kwakazulu Jackson, Wamsuta Frank James.
There you go. Dr. Clarence Jeep Jones, Catherine Jones, Hubie Jones, Mimi Jones, Kivi Kaplan, Lloyd King, Melvin Mel H. King, Reverend Earl W. Lawson, Dr. Elma Lewis, Armando Martinez, Jose C. Masso III, Jean McGuire, Melvin B. Miller, Robert Bob Moses, Charlotte M. Nelson, Leon T. Nelson, John D. O'Brien.
Senator William Bill Owens, Representative Shirley Owen Hicks, Paul Parks, Annie Mae Pictou Aquash, Glendora Putnam, Reverend James J. Reeb, Alex Rodriguez, Byron Russian, Sarah Ann Shaw, Mariel Snowden, Otto Snowden, Howard Thurman, Herbert E. Tucker Jr., Chuck Turner, Shirley L. Miskua Wahan Mills, Archie Williams, Reverend Virgil Wood, Alice White Yancey.
Great job, yes. And now that the teens have read the names of our Freedom Plaza honorees, we would like those civil rights leaders in attendance who are able to please rise in their seats. Please stand if you can. If you cannot, it's okay. We love you. And join me in giving these pioneers, these brave individuals, the praise and the applause that they deserve. We thank you. Just beautiful. Also, one more round of applause for my teen co-hosts of the day. Thank you so much. Wonderful job. All right, the Embrace is nothing like you have ever seen, and we are in for a true treat right now. Hank Willis Thomas is a conceptual artist working primarily with themes related to perspective, identity, community, media, and popular culture. His work has been exhibited throughout the United States and abroad, also in numerous public collections, to name a few: the Museum of Modern Art, the Guggenheim Museum, the Whitney Museum of American Art in New York, and many more. He is the co-founder for Freedoms, an artist-led organization that models and increases creative civic engagement, discourse, and direct action. Now, he lives and works in Brooklyn, New York with his wife and 2 daughters, and we are so happy to count him among our leaders right now. Please give it up for Hank Willis Thomas. So much love right now.
My baby. Where's Amari? Oh, I see you, pretty Ricky. Come on. Come on up. Yes, you, please. Come on up. I just wanted to take a moment, and I'm so grateful to be here following after Martin Luther King Jr. III and Yolanda and Andrea King Waters. This piece was the only thing that was in our hearts when we made this piece was to honor you and your family and to make you proud. And the legacy that you guys have carried on throughout your life and all the sacrifices, I can't tell you how happy and everything I feel for that. But my daughter, Zenzele, demanded that she comes on stage and she wanted to say something. What do you want to say?
Happy New Year.
Happy. And?
I love you.
And she loves you. But I get way too much credit for this work, for everything that I do.
I had something else to say.
What else do you have to say, baby?
Boo.
Okay. But I really did. Okay, there he is. So I really wanted to, and Marie St. Fleur as well, but I see all the beautiful faces up front who've already been up on stage, but I really wanted to acknowledge Michael Murphy, Sam Giaratani, my beautiful wife, Rujeko, Hockley, Jonathan Evans, Jadi Amazi, Karen Goodfellow, Kobe Kennedy, and Mahala. and the person who I feel like as soon as he got in the driver's seat, we were in the fast lane, Amari Jeffries, because this was not supposed to happen. Literally, there was a global pandemic in the middle of us trying to do a piece called The Embrace. And I love the fact that you gave it a much better name, Love 360. I think that's going to be the name that people carry with this work, because it is really about the capacity for each of us to be enveloped in love. And I feel enveloped and loved every time I hear the names and see the faces of Dr. Martin Luther King and Coretta Scott King and all the people who loved and partnered with them. I have to acknowledge my other family members here, and you know who you are. Stand up if you will. And also my grandmother, who would say, this is the day the Lord has made, and let us rejoice and be glad in it. There's something that I feel like is so important. My Aunt Leslie, I just looked at my mom, and my Aunt Leslie told me my grandmother died at 100 years old not too long ago. And her last words to her were, "You are so beautiful." And so I just want to take this moment to encourage each of you to look to someone next to you and speak my grandmother's words. You are so beautiful. You are so beautiful. I mean, and I say that because the love, the ability for each of us to acknowledge and give love is infinite. Dr. King said that love is creative. He talked about the power of love being so good, and he implored us to meet every moment with the abounding, where I lost it. Meet every situation of life with an abounding love. And my cousin Uncle Willis told me that love overrules. And so every day and every moment, remember that we can love, even when we're not supposed to. And actually, we're here today because people who were designed, who were in a society that was designed to sow hate, spread love. And this is in celebration of their love, but it's also manifestation of their love. So know that many years after you depart this earth, there may be people here who are inspired by you, who are spreading your spirit, and let that be a spirit of love. And so I only wanted to finish with the last, come up here because I can't help it. I want to share with one quote. It was so important to me to share all of these creative voices that were with me on this journey, especially this incredible poet. But this quote from Coretta Scott King, who talked about the beloved community. We hear a lot about it, but we never hear it described. In this way, she described it: the beloved community is not a utopia. It is a realistic vision of an achievable society, one in which problems and conflicts exist, but are resolved peacefully and without bitterness. Can we do that, y'all?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. So as much as you said you'd have bitterness, I did want to ask Shadi to share a few words.
The first thing I'm going to say is, Hank, I'm going to see you in these streets. I have been trying to avoid this moment for so long. It is very hard for me as a daughter of Boston to maintain composure and not bawl out. This is such a beautiful moment for me as a person, as a human being, but then you add the layers and the intersectionality of my blackness, of my womanhood, of, again, me being a native of Boston, and then to be offered the opportunity as an architect, as a young black architect, educated in this city, to participate in a moment like this, where we honor the black experience, black joy, black love, in the oldest park in the country. And I would be remiss if I did not stand on this stage and forget to mention my mother, who has led a beautiful life of legacy, purpose, and intention. And when I hear the granddaughter of Dr. Martin Luther King and Coretta Scott King talk about this work, I am reminded that we are all called to do this work. And this, y'all, this is on purpose. This is on time. And this is on our shoulders. So thank you all so much for this opportunity to be here. And Hank, again, I will see you in these streets.
Let's give a round of applause to Hank Willis Thomas and the whole family. Thank you for your inspirational message. You are outstanding. Thank you. So everybody in the audience right now, here's a question for you. When you feel like you need some inspiration or a dose of positive affirmation, do you ever turn to music? I know I certainly do. And one of my absolute favorite songs when I'm in a little mood is Optimistic by Jimmy Jam, Terry Lewis, and Gary Hines. If you know that song, you know it truly could be the soundtrack for the importance of the Embrace Unveiling today. And I am so excited for you to share that we're about to hear a powerful rendition of Optimistic right now, led by director James Jimmy Hills, Issa Bibbins, guitarist Tyrone Chase. They are coming on the stage right now looking fabulous in every way with Voices of Angels. And please give a special round of applause for Voices of Embrace.
sorrow. You can see her when looking down. A brighter day tomorrow will bring. You hear the voice of reason telling you can it never be done. No matter how hard reality seems, just hold on to your dream, yeah. Move it up and don't give in. Although it seems you'll never win, you will always pass the test as long as you keep your head to the sky. You can win, yeah. You can win as long as you keep your head to the sky. You can win as long as you keep your head to the sky. Be optimistic.
If things around you crumble, no, you don't have to stumble and fall. Just push ahead and don't you look back. Oh, no, 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 no. I know the storms and strife out of the albums of our life. Just look ahead and you'll be inspired to reach higher and higher. You will always do your best. Always. Never say never. Don't say never. 'Cause that's what optimistic is all about. Don't give in. Hey. You'll never win. You're not alone. Pass the test as long as you keep your head to the sky. You're a winner. Yes, you are. You can win. You can win. As long as you keep your head to the sky. You're not alone. You can win. As you keep your head to the sky. Be optimistic.
Hey. Hey now.
Oh my goodness. Wonderful and moving. Thanks again to the Voices of the Embrace for that amazing performance. We love you right back. Give me a concert ticket. I can't wait to go. My goodness, that was perfect. Woo! All right, well, the physical shape of the Embrace is the embodiment of the love Martin and Coretta shared for one another. To speak to that bond and so much more, please give a warm welcome, a round of applause to a federal leader who's just rocking it out just now, too optimistic, who's enjoying this whole program and has a message of hope. Please give a round of applause right now to Congresswoman Amari Presley.
Voices of the Embrace, I have some folks I need you to sing to in Washington. I'm gonna come back for you. Good afternoon, and it is truly a good afternoon, a glorious one. My joy and enthusiasm are not the least bit hampered by this changing weather. What's a little raindrops and a little mud? We need only summon the optimism and resolve of Martin and Coretta, who did what they were called to do in pursuit of a more just world, no matter the conditions or the circumstances. What a surreal and humbling honor it is to join in beloved community with you in Boston on this day, where we affirm that representation matters. Equity in the permanent artistic DNA of this city's infrastructure matters, especially in a city with a storied past but an evolving and still struggling present. This is a day that has been a long time in the making, one only made possible due to a vision, an unrelenting commitment, and the service of those who labored for many years to make it so. I know we've been naming a lot of names today, but you'll indulge me because on this day, on this record of history, there will be no erasure and there will be no hidden figures. And so we lift up and we thank Paul English and Liz Walker and Jeffrey Brown, and Maurice St. Fleur, and Damon, and Amari Jeffries. We thank you for laboring in love. We thank the donors who sowed a seed. We thank the volunteers for their sweat equity, the entire team and family at King Boston. We thank you. But before I acknowledge anyone else, let me take a moment to acknowledge and to thank the King family. Today we honor a man and a woman who are heroes to us, but we're simply their family. Indeed, Black families matter. I want to thank Martin Luther King III, Andrea, Yolanda. Yolanda, I was going to say if you lived in Boston, you might be coming for my seat. But I think you might skip Congress altogether and head straight for the White House. But I also do want to, again, because these were their parents. And I want us to also acknowledge the other children and bring them into this space, Dexter, Bernice, and the late Yolanda King. Can we please give it up to the King family one more time? I thank Thank you for modeling the grit, the grace, the faith, and determination of Coretta and Martin in word and deed, for advancing the work of justice and building upon their great legacy. Building upon the movement. Now, of course, movements do not move themselves. And although the movement was led by Martin and Coretta, I have to take a moment to acknowledge not only the community leaders and builders and civic leaders and activists and artists. I want to thank our ancestors. Faceless and nameless to many who sent up a prayer, who Vaselined an elbow, who packed a lunch. In this moment, to our ancestors, we say thank you. We thank the foot soldiers and the freedom riders from then and now. We thank you because we are still in the civil rights movement. And movements do not move themselves. And so I thank my colleagues, my partners in government for their stewardship. And again, we thank the incredibly talented artist, Hank Willis Thomas. We know that the ancestors were stewarding your hands and this vision and all those involved in ushering in a new Boston tradition with the historic unveiling of the Embrace, creating a space of artistic testament and reverence to the enduring legacy of the Kings, and a reminder of their Boston origin story. A sacred place where one can look at this masterpiece, derive inspiration, renew our hopes for a better world, and strengthen our resolve to do that work. That work with a capital W. To speak truth to power. To be actively anti-racist and not complicit in inaction and inertia. We know with inaction and inertia, we have insurrection and unrest. We must do the work of a capital W, of speaking truth to power, of being actively anti-racist, of confronting a colonial past, of uprooting and dismantling white supremacy from the corridors of Congress to Haiti to Harrison Avenue. When we reflect on Dr. King and his legacy, especially during the month of January, we recall Dr. King as a spiritual and moral leader, scholar and thought leader, an early architect of the civil rights movement. Yet too often, especially in January, his legacy is reduced to that of a peaceful protester with a dream. When the whole truth is, Dr. King was a proud and unapologetic black man, a prophetic preacher and a radical dreamer with a bold vision and desire for revolutionary change. Dr. King's vision was a radical one, considered bold for the times, full inclusion, equity, a redistribution of wealth and resources, and voting rights. In word and deed, he sought to affirm that Black lives matter. And in the face of threats, indignity, violence, brutality, and even isolation and marginalization because of his radical views, Dr. King still led with love. Love of God, love of humanity, love of justice. And in this great city of Boston, he found the love of his life,
Miss Coretta Scott, who became a devoted wife, trusted confidant, advisor, effective strategist, and activist in her own right. Theirs is the story of the transformative power of love, of Black love. Martin and Coretta, two brilliant, conscious, progressive people, aligned in the shared purpose of justice, who prayed together, who marched, rallied, boycotted, sacrificed with intention and urgency, stoking and appealing to our collective conscience, beginning in Boston, to embrace equality over racism, to embrace peace over militarism, to embrace grace over greed, to embrace unity over division, to embrace racial, economic, social justice over oppression, to embrace love over hate, to embrace one another. Martin loved Coretta, and Coretta loved Martin. Their embrace of one another began in Boston. Their vision for a more just world, their blueprint for a movement was formed and sharpened right here. Before Georgia, there was Boston. Before Alabama, there was Boston. Before New York, there was Boston. Before Washington, there was Boston. Where students of the New England Conservatory and Boston University, respectively, went on a blind date, one which eventually resulted in a marital union, a beautiful family, and birthed a powerful and transformative movement. And now, on today, people from throughout our Commonwealth, country, and world will travel to the Boston Common to bear witness to this profound work of art. Like their love, a masterpiece, a tribute and true representation of great love and two great leaders, the Kings. Let this masterpiece remind us of their sacrifice, radical dream, and radical love, so that we may come together in the pursuit of true justice and equality for all here in the city of Boston, in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and our nation. And now, it is my honor to introduce another scholar, trailblazer, and orator, Governor Deval Patrick, a man who bravely, with skill and conviction, took up the mantle of service, the work of justice, and just like Martin, was immediately certain about his beloved Diane. And the two of them together continue the work of the Kings. Governor Deval Patrick.
Thank you, Congresswoman. I don't know what I did to be assigned to follow you. It's hard for me to express in the 3 or 4 minutes I've been told I have all that I'm feeling today. I feel gratitude to Paul and Amari, to their teams, to Demond and Kia, and to the many, many others who organized and funded this magnificent monument. I feel awe at both the grandeur, and the intimacy of Hank's artistry. I feel joy at the presence of the King family and honor. I feel delight that our enduring interest in memorializing Massachusetts history expands today to include more of our history. And maybe most of all, I feel humility as we are reminded that we tread on the same paths and in the same neighborhoods as Martin Luther and Coretta Scott King. Dr. King is among the few public leaders I know of who moved a big, broad-based, transformative social, economic, and legislative agenda founded entirely on love. Love of the familiar and the stranger. Love of the ally and the adversary. Love of the history of America and of the possibility of America. He challenged all of us to imagine an America big enough in spirit to respect all of us, to dignify all of us, indeed, to embrace all of us. This monument makes me wonder just what the Kings would make of the false choices so many of our leaders offer up today. The false choice between economic growth and economic justice, between freedom and health, between sanctuary and a secure border, between respect for blue lives and respect for black lives. Martin and Coretta King knew that an embrace is no concession, it's no sign of weakness, quite the opposite. They embrace both the adversary and the cause in the same beloved community. And they showed us that strong advocacy grounded in love can break shackles, heal hearts, and make room in whole societies for more of us. Dr. and Mrs. King loved American ideals. One of the most meaningful ideas Dr. King ever spoke about was when he said his dream was deeply rooted in the American dream. The Kings were unflinching about America's shortcomings. They were surely disappointed and frustrated by the violent resistance of some and the indifference of a whole lot of others, the slow pace of change. And yet they never mocked American ideals. Instead, they lived them by caring about the left out and the left back, hearing the unheard, seeing the unseen, calling out the inescapable link between the mighty and the meek. They lived American ideals by being the light that drives out darkness. And to many in the moment and many more through the echoes of time, they gave us a reason to hope. There's something especially lovely about a work of public art called The Embrace, ever sitting here in this place, known as slow sometimes to open its arms to others. But once we do, our embrace is warm and firm and lasting. And every time we embrace newcomers or each other, we have become stronger. So let this monument be a reminder to us, even here, that history remembers our embraces best of all, and that we have in us still the capacity and the call to love. Thank you.
That was just, thank you. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Well, I do have a loud mouth, but we'll wait for the technical. Here we go. Let's give it up. 1, 2, can you hear me still? Not yet. 1, 2, 1, 2, hello? Good idea, try the chorus mic. 1, 2. What are you saying? Okay. You want me to keep going? Yes. All right, we've lost the mic, but who needs the mic?
All right, we're having a little trouble with the audio from the stage, but what's happening now is NBC 10's Latoyia Edwards is about to lead a countdown to the moment when they pull the tarp off the embrace. What we're going to do is stay with this picture. We think once the countdown begins, you'll be able to hear it at home as well. And then, of course, that black tarp, which is covering just about 20% of the monument there still, will finally come down and the embrace will be visible to the entire world.
And this is really the moment we've all been waiting for. This is years in the making. I'm trying to hear if we can hear Latoyia, because we're going to do like a New Year's Eve countdown.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that, actually. It should be fun. So many people have come here to the Common to get a glimpse. You can see the crowd around the monument in the immediate foreground, but all over the expansive Boston Common, people have gathered to watch. There are screens and speakers erected all over the place, so that this is a moment for the city to celebrate together.
And you know what's been really interesting is seeing so many kiddos out here with their families. So many kids jumping up and down, getting really excited. Let's see, I think they're about to do the countdown, but really great to have the community come together in this unity of love.
Yeah, and to hear all the speakers. I felt like so many people were channeling Dr. Martin Luther King's oratory today.
Can we talk about Yolanda?
Oh my gosh, she's such a joy. We got the chance, of course, to meet her in person. You said you've listened to some of her speeches.
She is incredible. Oh, here
the countdown has begun.
Here's
Let's
the
listen
countdown.
in. There it is, a 10-second countdown before the tarp was ultimately revealed. And there it is, the Embrace Boston on the Boston Common in all its glory. So many people have come here to see it. You know, around the country this weekend, Americans will be celebrating Martin Luther King Jr. Day. And of course, he is worthy of celebration. But here in Boston, there's a conscious decision to celebrate Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Coretta Scott King together. And this monument is a tribute to their love, to their embrace, and it will be forever a part of this 400-year-old public park.
Absolutely incredible there, and you know, you could just see everyone's face when that tarp dropped. Truly incredible, and I can't wait for you at home to come here to the Boston Common and see it for yourself. It truly is an embrace. And so much love. You could just see it in her eyes right there.
Absolutely. That was a great shot of that person really taking in this monument. There are monuments all over the place that are dedicated to wars, to conflict, but this is a monument dedicated to love, and it will be forever a part of the Boston Common.
And I just want to say, I speak for all of us at NBC 10 Boston. We are so honored to share this moment with you. I hope you join us starting at 4 p.m. We'll have more coverage on the Embrace.
I'm Glenn Jones for Priscilla Casper. Thanks so much for being part of our special coverage.